You've been there before. Someone says something off, the tension rises, and your blood pressure spikes. The impulse to snap back, defend yourself, or just shut down creeps in fast. But what if I told you that your power isn't in how fast you clap back? It's in how calm you stay. Real strength isn't found in loud voices or quick reactions. It's found in the quiet decision to pause, to think, and to respond. This message isn't about being passive. It's about choosing intentional power over chaotic impulse. So let's talk about the difference between reacting and responding, because strong people know that the pause is where peace and strength live. The moment something triggers us, whether it's a sharp comment, a passive-aggressive tone, or a stressful situation, our minds go straight into defense mode. Our heart rate rises, our breathing changes, and without even realizing it, we're ready to react. That's biology. That's the human nervous system preparing to fight, flee, or freeze. But what separates strong people from those who constantly get swept away in emotional storms is one simple but powerful decision: they pause. That pause is where everything shifts. It's not about ignoring how you feel. It's about respecting how powerful your next move is. In that space between stimulus and response lies the most underused strength we have: control. Not control over others, not control over outcomes, but control over ourselves. And the people who learn to master that space, they walk into rooms and shift atmospheres without even raising their voices. The pause isn't passive, it's active, it's a skill. It's a decision that requires maturity. It means allowing the first wave of emotion to rise and letting it pass before making a move. It's realizing that the first words we want to say are rarely the ones we'll be proud of later. It's catching that sarcastic comeback, that impulsive email, that urge to lash out, and instead choosing to wait, breathe, reflect. Because when you pause, you don't just give yourself time, you give yourself power. You give your brain a chance to process. You give your heart a chance to settle. You let the dust clear before you decide how to step forward. And in a world that rewards speed, fire, and constant noise, it's the pause that brings clarity. It's the pause that keeps you from saying things you can't unsay, doing things you can undo, and becoming someone you're not proud of just because the moment was loud. That pause, just a few seconds long, isn't weakness, it's strength. It's standing still while everything inside you wants to run, attack, defend, or shut down. It's you saying, I may feel this deeply, but I won't be driven by it. It's emotional discipline in motion. It's taking control of the space between what just happened and what's about to happen next. And the longer you learn to live in that space, the stronger you become. Not louder, not faster, but stronger, because you're not just reacting to life, you're responding through choice. When something hits us the wrong way, an insult, a challenge, a disruption, we're wired to act immediately. The body doesn't wait. It sends a flood of emotion before we even know what we're feeling. That spike of adrenaline, the tightness in the chest, the urgency to speak, to react, to release that pressure, it all happens so fast. But there's a moment when impulse knocks on the door, and in that exact moment, emotional intelligence decides whether we answer. Impulse feels natural, it's automatic. It tells us to do what feels good right now. Say it now. Snap back now. Prove your point. Let them know they crossed a line. But emotional intelligence doesn't operate in the now. It operates from depth. It listens to the emotion, but doesn't live in it. It understands that just because we feel something doesn't mean we have to feed it. Emotional intelligence says, hold on. Let's name this first. Is it anger? Is it hurt? Is it fear masked as defensiveness? It slows the moment down enough to ask, why am I reacting this way? What am I actually protecting here? Impulse doesn't ask questions. It just moves. But emotional intelligence brings awareness into the heat of the moment. It looks past the surface level emotion and focuses on the message underneath. It's not about bottling up emotions, it's about managing them. Emotional intelligence isn't cold, it's incredibly warm, but it has boundaries. It knows that every feeling is valid, but not every reaction is valuable. It understands that the way we express what we feel matters as much as what we feel in the first place. It pauses to ask, what will this create if I say it like this? Who will it impact? Will this move me closer to resolution or deeper into chaos? Impulse has no foresight. It doesn't care what happens after. It's about releasing tension, not creating solutions. But emotional intelligence can hold tension and still think clearly. It can feel every ounce of disappointment, frustration, or disrespect and still choose to respond with grace or silence or truth that's been softened by wisdom. It's not a weakness to take a second and check in with yourself. It's a sign of emotional maturity when someone can feel the fire and not burn everything down with it. When you lead with emotional intelligence, you're not erasing your emotion. You're elevating it. You're placing it in its proper context. You're saying, yes, I feel this. Yes, I'm human. But I won't let this moment rob me of my peace, my purpose, or my character. Emotional intelligence isn't loud, it's steady. It doesn't chase after every conflict. It doesn't fight to win every argument. It knows that strength isn't always proven in what you say, but in what you resist saying. And the more we choose to lead with awareness rather than impulse, the more we protect what really matters, not just in the moment, but far beyond it. There's a moment between the trigger and the response where everything can shift. But to get to that moment, you have to be willing to detach, not from people, not from responsibility, but from the immediate swirl of emotion that clouds your thinking. Because when you're right in the middle of it, when the words sting, or the situation feels personal, or your pride is on the line, it's hard to see anything clearly. The heat of the moment blurs the truth. That's why detachment isn't avoidance. It's clarity. It's pulling back just far enough to get a better view of what's actually happening. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough not to let the moment distort your judgment. It means stepping back emotionally so you can see what's real versus what's just reactive energy. It allows you to observe instead of absorb effect, because when you absorb everything, every tone, every look, every mood, you get lost in it. You can't see the difference between someone else's chaos and your own peace. But when you detach, even briefly, effect, you give yourself a moment to look at the situation like you're on the outside looking in. You notice what's fueling the conflict. You realize that not everything said to you is about you. You begin to identify the pain behind someone's words instead of taking them at face value. In that space, you begin to think instead of just feel. Emotions stop controlling your narrative, and logic quietly enters the room. That space helps you ask better questions. What's really going on here? Is this about me? Or about something they're carrying? Am I reacting to the situation, or am I reacting to how it makes me feel about myself? These aren't easy questions, but detachment gives you room to ask them. It's a mental boundary that allows you to regain control of your response. When you're too close to the fire, every spark feels like a personal attack. But when you step back, you realize some things aren't worth burning for. Detachment gives you vision. It helps you separate what's urgent from what's important. It slows down the pressure to do something right now, say something right now, prove something right now. It teaches you that just because something is loud doesn't mean it's significant. Just because someone is demanding a reaction doesn't mean they deserve one. And just because your emotions are intense doesn't mean they're accurate. There is wisdom in space. There is clarity in distance. The more space you give yourself, the more clearly you can see what aligns with your values and what's just noise trying to pull you off balance. It's in the space of detachment that you start to notice the patterns, not just in others, but in yourself. The habits, the triggers, the insecurities that rise up in certain moments. And because you're no longer drowning in the moment, you can begin to choose differently. You can begin to show up not from habit or emotion, but from understanding. Detachment doesn't make you cold. It makes you conscious. It gives you the ability to engage without losing yourself in the process. It gives your inner voice room to speak louder than the chaos around you. It lets you remember who you are when the situation tries to convince you otherwise. There's this unspoken pressure that so many people carry. The feeling that they have to respond to everything, explain themselves all the time, defend their actions, prove their intentions, react in real time to every look, every message, every moment of tension. But what's often missed in that pressure is the quiet truth that you don't owe anyone immediate access to your energy, your attention, or your peace. Just because someone delivers a sharp comment doesn't mean they're entitled to your anger. Just because they throw emotional bait doesn't mean you're obligated to bite. The need to always respond often comes from a deep-rooted fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of appearing weak, fear of being disrespected. Fear that silence will be mistaken for surrender. But silence is not surrender when it's intentional. And restraint is not weakness when it's coming from self-respect. There is power in knowing you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. There is dignity in letting someone else be loud while you remain calm, not out of pride, but out of alignment with who you are choosing to be. There are people who will provoke just to see if they can steal a reaction from you. They don't want resolution, they want control. And the moment you react impulsively, you hand over that control. You're no longer responding from strength, you're reacting from woundedness, from urgency, from ego. That's the exchange we don't always see happening. Every reaction costs something. It costs your focus, your time, your energy. And not everyone deserves to spend that kind of currency from your emotional bank account. When someone says something that triggers you, the world tells you to clap back, to post, to text back right now, to win the moment. But real strength knows that not every moment is worth winning. Some moments are meant to be witnessed, not participated in. Some comments are meant to reflect more about the person saying them than about you. And sometimes silence is not absence, it's presence. It's being fully aware of what's happening, but choosing not to let it shift your balance. People might not understand why you didn't respond. They might project onto your silence. They might accuse you of being passive or indifferent or too soft. But when you know your values, when you know your truth, and when you've taken time to understand your emotional patterns, you stop handing out explanations like apologies. You stop explaining your decisions just to make others comfortable. You stop thinking that your peace has to be constantly defended in public. There's a deep calm that comes when you realize your reaction isn't a debt you owe just because someone decided to be loud, disrespectful, or dramatic. Strong people set boundaries, not just with others, but within themselves. They learn to recognize that their emotional presence is valuable. It's not for sale to the highest conflict. It's not available to every insult that comes dressed like a conversation. It's not accessible to every person who shows up with their own unresolved pain and wants to project it onto you. When you begin to trust that your silence can speak, that your absence can be louder than any words, that your calm can be your message, you no longer feel compelled to respond just to be seen or heard or understood. There's something liberating about not reacting. It doesn't mean you didn't notice. It doesn't mean it didn't affect you. It just means you decided your response would come from peace, not pressure. And peace doesn't rush. Peace doesn't perform. Peace doesn't prove. Peace chooses carefully. Peace protects your values, your time, and your spirit in a world that constantly tries to pull you into battles that don't align with your purpose. Peace knows the difference between someone who's genuinely seeking clarity and someone who's just looking for a reaction to feed their own chaos. There's a kind of peace that doesn't come from quiet rooms or gentle mornings. It comes from discipline. It's the kind of peace you have to fight for. The kind that shows up only when you've learned to stop reacting to everything that tries to pull you out of yourself. Life will always offer you chances to be offended. People will say things they shouldn't. Situations will arise that push your buttons, test your patience, and poke at every unresolved place in your soul. But in those exact moments, you're given a choice that most people never recognize. You can react from instinct, or you can respond from strength. Responding is what protects that inner calm. Not because you're ignoring the problem, but because you're choosing how you face it. When you react, the situation owns you. It dictates your tone, your mood, your entire energy. But when you respond, you take ownership back. You stop letting outside chaos have access to your internal stability. You decide what pace the moment will move at, how you will show up in it, and how much of yourself it actually deserves. Peace isn't just the absence of noise. It's the intentional removal of permission for chaos to control you. You can be surrounded by conflict and still have peace. You can be spoken to harshly and still not absorb the tone. You can walk into an uncomfortable space and still move with presence, grace, and clarity. But that kind of peace doesn't come automatically. It's cultivated through choices. And one of the most powerful choices you'll ever make is how you respond when you're challenged, triggered, or tested. Some people don't want resolution. They want escalation. They want to pull you into their storm so they don't have to sit in it alone. But when you choose to respond calmly, you disrupt the cycle. You stop matching energy and start setting tone. You don't rise to every bait because you're not swimming in insecurity or ego anymore. Your response comes from understanding who you are, not from needing to defend it in every single interaction. It's not about winning the argument or making your point louder. It's about maintaining your alignment. It's about knowing that a momentary reaction could cost you hours of peace, days of reflection, or even relationships you actually care about. When you respond, you give yourself space to see what's really at stake. You recognize the emotional cost of each decision. You stop letting small moments rob you of big picture calm. Responding allows you to check in with your values. Is what you're about to say in alignment with who you want to be? Is it coming from clarity or from old wounds? Is this about the situation in front of you, or about the emotion that was already waiting inside, looking for somewhere to land? Peace is protected by those questions. It's guarded by the ability to slow down and ask yourself whether this moment deserves your energy, your voice, or even your attention. Sometimes the most powerful move isn't saying anything at all. Sometimes it's saying something softer than what your pride wants. Sometimes it's choosing to walk away, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. And wisdom knows that peace doesn't scream. Peace doesn't chase. Peace doesn't explain itself to people committed to misunderstanding it. Peace responds, calmly, clearly, firmly, because it understands that not every moment needs a reaction, but every moment shapes your state of mind. Peace listens first. It waits before deciding. It chooses words like a craftsman picks tools, carefully, purposefully, with full awareness of the impact they will have when released. Peace isn't just a feeling, it's a filter. And responding intentionally, mindfully, patiently, is what keeps that filter clean when life throws dirt in your direction. At the end of the day, life is going to keep coming. The challenges, the people who push our buttons, the moments that test our character. They don't stop. But neither does your ability to choose. You can keep reacting, handing over your power to every situation, or you can pause, detach, reflect, and respond. That's where real strength lives, not in loud comebacks, not in emotional outbursts, but in calm choices made with clarity. Strong people aren't numb, they feel it all. They just don't let the feeling lead. They understand that silence can be power, that detachment can bring wisdom, that peace is something you protect, not something the world hands you. Every moment you don't react is a moment you're building a deeper kind of strength, the kind that moves quietly, confidently, and with purpose. You don't have to respond to prove your worth. You don't have to defend your peace to people who are committed to disturbing it. Strength is not about control over others, it's about mastering yourself. So the next time life hands you chaos, take a breath, lean into your awareness, and remember, strong people don't react, they respond. That's the difference between being driven by pressure and being led by purpose. And that difference changes everything.